guys, welcome back to another episode of Tales of the Trip. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. I think the year was 2004, and we have been contacted by a record label group to go down and play. So there were a few record labels that reached out to us. One of them was Benson, which is the label that Carmen was on. Remember Revival, that guy? Another label was the label that Third Day was on. I'm forgetting what label they were on. But there were 6 record labels. I remember one of them was Rocketown Records. Rocketown is Michael W. Smith's label, or in the industry they call him Smitty. Rocketown was on there. There was also Benson. There was also the label that Petra was on. But these are like 6 of the largest Christian music labels, and they were reaching out to up-and-coming artists, and they invited us out to Tennessee, to a place called the W. Now, the W today is a line of luxury hotels, but the W, which stood for warehouse, and it's still there, is a big concert event venue in an industrial part of Franklin, Tennessee. So when you go there, it's sort of, imagine a bunch of warehouses. This place was called the W. It was about 10,000, maybe 15,000 square feet. There was a stage set up there. And it's a concert venue. It's actually where Petra recorded their farewell DVD. That live performance that Petra did was done at the W. And so first or last, we were lucky enough to play that same stage for these record executives. And record executives, I'll do another Tales of the Trip on that, but they are exactly what you would think they would be. And by that, I mean, well, okay, I'll do another episode on that one, all right? I don't want to get sidetracked on that. So we go out, we get invited, and I think we received an email, because back then there were cell phones, but cell phone use was limited, and you had to pay certain dollar amount every month for a certain number of minutes and stuff like that. And even text messaging was kind of new, and I think this was 2004. So we get a message, probably maybe an email to the band website, or I don't remember how, but I reach out to some folks and say, hey, we want you guys to come down from New York. We want you guys to play at the W. There's going to be 6 labels there. And it's an opportunity for you guys to get maybe an A&R deal, which is an artist and repertoire development deal. That usually comes before a record deal. So we pile up into the Explorer. And this was not my Explorer. This was actually my wife's Explorer. And I think that's why it was 2004, because it was brand new. So we brought it home from the dealership. She drove it for a few days. And I said, hey, babe, I'm taking this with the boys out to Nashville. So we drive out to Nashville, and we stood in Rick's parents' house. They had a house out there, I think, I don't know, maybe Franklin, Tennessee, or Murfreesboro. I don't know, someplace out there. So we drove 14 hours nonstop. Rick and I would do all the driving. We get out there. We crashed out on the floor. Rick had his room, right? Because it was his parents' house. The rest of the band, we slept in front of the fireplace. We ended up meeting a couple of local musicians, Assemblies of God musicians. I don't remember where we met these guys, but these guys had access to their church, and they were the musicians. And they said, hey, if you guys need to rehearse, let us know. You can use our church. We just want to check you guys out because we've been hearing about you guys. And we're not going to get a chance to see you live because the event at the W was a private event. So it was basically just the bands that were invited to play, maybe their management and the record label and their people. Sure, so we go in on I want to say maybe it was a Friday night. Honestly, I don't remember. But it was the evening. We were only going to play, I think, 3 or 4 songs. So we kind of bang out those 3 or 4 songs, hang out with the guys. I think we went to probably a Waffle House. So that's one of my favorite places down south. Go back, crash out. We were supposed to step on stage around 10 o'clock in the morning. We get there early. I mean, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, and we are there to the point where we ended up turning on the music. I think we were watching a movie in the truck, kicked on the AC, and we all fell asleep. Around 9:45, a guy comes outside. He bangs on the window. He wakes us up. He was like, hey, who are you guys? I said, hey, we're First So Last. We're the band from New York. We're supposed to be playing here for some folks in about 10 or 15 minutes. He said, okay, well, we're ready. Come on in. And I remember he said to us, hey, thank you for being on time and being responsible. Most bands are late. We already have bands, local bands that are calling us and saying, hey, we're running an hour behind schedule. We're 2 hours behind schedule. So he asked us, did you guys drive in? Because he sees that the car has New York plates. So yeah, we drove in, a few hours ago. We crashed out and we're here. he says to me, where are you guys going after this? I said, well, as soon as we're done playing, we have to head back to New York because we have a bunch of gigs lined up. So back then we would gig Friday, Saturday, and usually Sunday mornings we would do worship at a church, maybe sneak in a song or two. And sometimes we would do 2 services on Sunday. So we'd gig Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes twice on Sunday. At this point, we're doing about 80 to 100 shows a year. So you figure there's 52 weeks in a year, and we're playing 2 to 3 times a week. It got to the point where we didn't even rehearse because we were playing 3 or 4 times a week anyway, and the band was just gelling incredibly well. Everything was just beautiful. It was like magic when we go out there to play. I mean, these guys were like this tight. So we go back to the W, right? We're there, and musicians tend to know each other, right? And in the world of music, whether you have a record deal or not, respect is many times given because of the ability that you have. So if you're a really good guitar player, you may not have a record deal, but you play around other guitar players that do have a record deal, they give you love and respect because of that, right? If you're a singer, you may not have a record deal, but you're an excellent vocalist. You go out there and you're in the vicinity, or maybe you're opening up for a band that has a record deal or something like that, you're going to get respect because of your abilities. And so we walk in and the guy lets us in and he was very nice. And then he sends his son over. It's like, hey, and his son was kind of helping us plug in and set up so that there's something they call downbeat, right? So downbeat means that if you're going to play at 10 o'clock in the morning, your scheduled play at 10 o'clock, downbeat means at 10 o'clock, there's music playing. So, and we would set up relatively quickly. So Rick is kind of going back and forth with the sound guy because Rick brought some cymbals and Rick wanted to swap out the snare. And the sound guy's like, no, we're not. Everything is already tweaked and EQ'd. You got to use the kit that's there. We're not going to swap out snares. We're only doing 3 or 4 songs. We're not changing cymbals. We're not doing any of that. All right, fine, no problem. We're backstage. Vic, my guitar player, comes over to me and he's like, dude, do you know who's the guy that just got into with Rick, that's doing sound, that's mixing the band, that let us in? Like, I don't know, some sound guy, I guess, from Tennessee, probably works for the labels or something, some type of an engineer. I'm like, I don't know who he is, and his son is helping us manage a stage. Vic is having a complete conniption. It turns out it's Dez Dickerson. For those of you that don't know, Dez Dickerson plays guitar for Prince. So when Prince was, the purple one in his heyday in the 80s, right? Right next to Prince playing guitar is a guy named Dez Dickerson. After Dez Dickerson left, I think the band was The Revolution, he became a Christian and he was involved in Christian rock bands, right? I know he wrote a few songs for White Cross and for some other artists that he was working with. I didn't recognize Dez. No one recognized Dez, right? Victor, guitar players recognize each other. Victor is freaking out. He's like, oh my God, that's Dez Dickerson, Dez Dickerson. And I was like, okay, dude, I mean, maybe we could say hello to him after we play, but right now we got to get through this set. So we go up there, we play. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're hitting these guys with 4 rockers. We didn't even do any ballads. We went, I think we opened up with Hourglass, maybe into Magician, and then we had some new stuff. And anyway, we did 3 or 4 of our hardest rocking songs, bang, 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 bang. And then it was thank you, God bless you guys, and we walk off stage, went over, I thanked Dez, and Victor is still geeking out. Oh my God, you're Dez Dickerson. I knew who he was, but at this point, we were meeting so many influential and people in the industry that you just get numb to it, right? You meet one guy, hey, it's nice to meet you. And you meet the next guy, right? But here's what was special about Dez. So Dez comes over, he's like, hey man, I'm really digging the band. I really like the sound. What could I do to help your band? And so immediately I want to say, give us a record deal. I didn't say that. What I said was any advice that you could give us, any guidance, anything that you could do with all your vast years of experience to pour into us, we would really appreciate Dez. He says, you know what, man? That's cool. He says, that's what's up. So he gives me his manager's phone number. And he says, my guy's going to contact you. And at first I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, all right, my people are going to call your people, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you, man, we got back to the city. We did the shows, I think Monday or Tuesday. I get a call from, back then, the Nashville area code was 615. And we were getting a lot of 615 calls, so I always pick those up. I pick up, I forgot the guy's name. He introduces himself. Hey, I'm Dez's manager. So all these guys at this level, they all have managers that do things for them and that run their business. So the guy introduces himself to me, says, hey, I'm Dez's manager. Dez really was impressed with the band, and I had left him my CD. He's been listening to the CD. He wants to speak to you guys and speak to you and invest in you a little bit. And I'm like, okay, great. So we set up a conference call, and I think we spoke for about an hour. And Dez gave me some of the best advice that I think I've received when it comes to music. And he said to me, if you cannot track your progress, meaning if you begin here and you cannot track how far you've come in your music career, because then it's not a music career, it's a music hobby. And it's okay if it's a hobby, but for it to be a music career, there has to be growth, and you have to be able to track that growth. And that was something that sat with me to this day. And that really helped us. And so Dez sort of became a non-paid advisor, because we couldn't afford him, a non-paid advisor to the band. And we spoke about 3 or 4 times after that throughout the years. And he would follow the band and say, hey, I see you guys are playing here. And his manager would call or email, and we would speak for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And it was a very humbling thing for me, because I didn't really feel like, oh my God, Prince's guitar player thinks my band is hot. Not at all. I actually felt very humbled that someone that had reached such an incredibly high level of stardom was actually taking time out of his life to speak to me and to kind of coach and mentor me and to help the band out. And so that was a very humbling thing for us, right? We played the W. And in the next episode, I think I still have some of the feedback and things that we got from those record execs. But there's a lot of stuff happening here, so keep coming back, and I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. But that is the first time that First So Last played the W, and we got to meet and hang out with Dez Dickerson.